Hailey Van Lith has completely changed the future of TCU women's basketball in one season.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. We're going to talk about TCU men's basketball landing Iowa guard Brock Harding over the weekend in the transfer portal. We have plenty of thoughts about spring football, but we're going to start with women's basketball today because Hailey Van Lith, Mark Campbell, and the TCU Horned Frogs are playing for an appearance in the Final Four tonight. They are in the Elite Eight. They will take on Texas. They took down Notre Dame for the second time this season, and Notre Dame's a 3 seed. TCU's a 2 seed. On paper, just by the seeding, you would think, well, that's a game they should technically win. But TCU was 7.5-point underdogs going into this ball game. Maybe it changed right before tip, but the latest that I saw a few hours before tip-off, Notre Dame was 7.5-point favorites. Olivia Miles played. She was dealing with an ankle injury, but she played in this ball game. Fighting Irish were in full strength, and TCU won that game. And the story of that game, Hailey Van Lith took over the ball game. She ended the game with 26 points, but in the fourth quarter, she completely won the game for TCU. She had 9 rebounds, 4 assists. We talk about veteran guard play and how important it is in basketball a lot. And in March, that's what it's about. Can your guards play well, either get their own shot or set somebody else up to score? And at the end of that game, the sets that they were running, it was not, hey, let's get Sedona Prince a post touch, or let's get Madison Connor an open look at a 3. And I'm not disparaging those players. I'm just making the point. When they needed to score late in that game, they would get the ball to Van Lith. Sedona would come set a pick somewhere on the floor, and they would just go to work from there. She had 2 big threes. She had an assist to Sedona that was huge. Got to the rim a few times and scored there as well. Hit some free throws. Did everything you want a veteran guard to do in that situation. And the Frogs have a chance to go to the Final Four. They got out to an early lead in this one. They're up 16-9. They were shooting the ball well. Notre Dame fought back. They not really slowly. They kind of took control of the game in the second quarter. TCU was able to keep it close, and it was a 2-point game at halftime, I believe. Yeah, 35-33 at halftime. But then in the third quarter, Notre Dame comes out and goes on a run, and they pushed that lead out to 9 points about midway through the third quarter. And it was make or break time. And TCU's defense stepped up in a big way. Van Lith got going. Sedona was a steady presence on offense all day long. She finished with 21 points. And early in the game, I guess I should say in the second quarter, when TCU was struggling to score, she became the safety net. It was like, hey, we can't do much else right now. Let's get Sedona the ball in the post and let her get her own shot. And she was great at doing that in the game on Saturday afternoon. Just a huge win for this team. And what a moment. I mean, Hailey got all kinds of praise in the post-game studio show, as she should. You can tell she really loves playing with this team. This team loves playing together. Yeah, winning's part of that. Like, winning always helps when we talk about team chemistry. But they also genuinely seem to like each other and just enjoy being around each other as this run has unfolded. But back to Van Lith and what she did in this game. In the fourth quarter of this game, I mean, she just made every right decision. And I'm always trying to be honest with you guys. I'm trying to make it a point to level with you and be real about it when I was wrong about something. There was a stretch of the season when TCU was struggling a little bit. They lost Oklahoma State on the road. A few games after that, lost to Kansas State on the road. And on the podcast, I was like, look, I have a little bit of concern because it feels like in these games where there's more physicality, and in both of those games, it was very clear what these coaches were trying to do. They were blitzing pick and rolls. They were throwing a lot of defenders at Hailey, and they were just trying to get the ball out of her hands, but also just make her life difficult and wear her out, wear her energy out. And she struggled in a few of those games. And I said, it feels like in these more physical games, she struggles to really score. But when they needed her to step up, really this entire tournament run, but especially on Saturday, she was money. She's just a winner. She just is. And in a game where Hannah Hidalgo was on the floor, Olivia Miles was on the floor, Cintron was on the floor, Hailey Van Lith was the best player on the court in crunch time. Notre Dame goes under a screen. She steps back and hits a three. Had a great pocket pass to Sedona Prince off a pick and roll. Sedona was able to corral it, get to her left hand, finish. Had a possession where Van Lith was kind of spinning around. It was late shot clock. She found herself open on the wing for half a second, pulled a three, nailed it. Just every time they needed a big bucket, she either got it herself or set up her teammates to make a big play. Didn't have any, I think had one turnover in the fourth quarter, but protected the ball really well, given the fact that she had it in her hand for basically the last 10 minutes of the game. And this team also, they have improved a lot defensively. They were never a bad defensive team or just like a horrible defensive team, but early in the year, you could score on them. And they held Notre Dame to 31% shooting. Donovan Hunter did an outstanding job on Hannah Hidalgo, making her life tough. Sedona Prince did what she does all year long, which is eliminate threats at the rim. No easy buckets. She's blocking shots. She's running around. She's making plays. Over and over and over again. Everybody did a great job stepping up and making things happen on that side of the ball. And that's been a huge difference maker as this team has really captured momentum this season. But the brand awareness and just the huge boost that Van Lith has given this team on the court, it's very obvious. I think she makes everyone better. She's taking them to the Elite Eight, hopefully the Final Four. We'll see what happens tonight. But even off the court, it's because of her individual stardom. But on Instagram yesterday, I know it's not the end all be all. She was all over my feed. People talking about how amazing she was in this game. She has given TCU a platform that they can now use to recruit. And I think this is going to be a huge offseason for Mark Campbell. He's essentially replacing the entire roster again. But I think he's comfortable doing that. He knows how to work the portal. And he talked about it in some of these post-game press conferences where he was like, look, the last 2 years, I've had to really just sell people on the idea of hope. Like, hey, trust me. We're going to figure this out. I know there's not anything right now to look forward to or that's really concrete or set in stone that we've done. But if you stick with me, we can do this. Well, now he has tangible results where he can sit down with a recruit and say, we just made the Elite Eight. I've been here 2 years. We've already been to a regional final. We've already won a Big 12 championship in the regular season, a Big 12 tournament championship. I'm going to bring in more talent in the portal. Come play with us. And that should work really, really well. Just what a story. You go from last year where you're basically an afterthought. The only national headlines you made were when the team couldn't field the team. And so that was, a big deal in the national landscape. And Mark kept the team together. Remarkably, he kept everybody moving the same direction. It didn't end in a fairy tale last season where they went on a run and won the Big 12 tournament or something crazy like that. But they finished the season strong enough to make the NIT, won an NIT game, and then they got more players in the portal and immediately just ran through the league. But what a huge win against Notre Dame, 71-62 on Saturday. They played Texas tonight. I was watching Texas, Tennessee. Texas is really good. Madison Booker wears number 35. She's 6'1". She's basically a point forward. She's going to have the ball in her hands a lot. I don't know who will get the cover on her. I'm not sure if it'll be Donovan or if they'll use Agnes and her size to try to match up with her better. But she's a matchup problem regardless of who's going to try to cover her. Roy Harmon is a great scorer and can get to the rim, can shoot the three. Taylor Jones is 6'4". She's averaging 12 points a game and 7 rebounds. This is a very complete Texas team. And I think they've kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. Like UConn's on an incredible tear right now with Paige Beckers. South Carolina. Actually, while I'm recording this, South Carolina was in a pretty hotly contested game with Duke. So I'll see what the status of that is. But with all the powerhouses that we've talked about in women's basketball this season, I feel like Texas has kind of gotten forgotten. But they've only lost 3 games. 2 of those losses were to South Carolina. This is a very good basketball team. It's going to be a tall task. But I think TCU can win. I'm done doubting them. I was timid going into that Notre Dame game because I thought beating Notre Dame twice was going to be difficult. But they handled their business. And so now I really hope they can go out there and play with house money and relax and play hard. When we come back, some thoughts on spring football. We're 3 practices in. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. It's March. You can get $200 in bonus bets when you hit your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Pick your favorites. Stay in on the action. It's very easy to navigate. The FanDuel app is simple to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, that's FanDuel.com on the FanDuel app or at FanDuel.com. First $5 bet, you win that bet, you get up to $200 in bonus bets. Okay, we're a couple practices in with spring football now. A few interesting position battles. Ryan Hughes at left tackle. Can Rasheed Jackson get in there and make some waves? He's a transfer from Incarnate Word. Those tackle positions, you got to figure it out. Cade Bennett, not a position battle, but he's sliding into the guard role. Colton Deary sliding over to center. Who will those receivers be? My guess is Jack in the slot and then Dwyer and McAllister on the outside. But we'll see if some young players emerge. At corner, is Avery Helm going to be the dude coming off the ACL injury? Or does he get pushed a little bit? But one comment that I made, well, it was really a 7-minute segment. It wasn't just one comment. But Sonny Dykes spoke with the media after the first practice. And he said one thing that he was really encouraged about in practice 1 was the team just seemed really mature. They didn't have pre-snap penalties. They didn't have mental mistakes. And it was a really clean practice. And that they were playing at a high level. He felt good about it. And so I talked about that on YouTube. And my friend Vince Pryor says, why do you have to be a senior to cut out mental mistakes? I don't understand why it's a good thing for Sonny to say seniors are eliminating mental mistakes. Of course, in a controlled environment. Last year, I saw multiple O-linemen run to a spot on the field and completely miss the defender. So Vince is not buying the Sonny Kool-Aid as he hasn't before. I guess the point I was trying to make, you're right. It's not the end-all be-all. And there is something to be said about that sounds like the bare minimum. Just not being able to, or being able to cut out mental mistakes, not hurt yourself. Well, that's true. But if the team would have cut out some of those mental mistakes last season, I think they win 2 more games. So, is it the bare minimum? Yes. Sonny saying this does not make me think that he is Nick Saban or that he has unlocked some sort of secret code here. I do think he is a good talent acquisition guy for the Big 12. I have concerns about TCU from a recruiting standpoint in the context of could they one day compete with the Big 10 or SEC. Right now they feel very far behind. But within the Big 12, from a rankings perspective, a ratings perspective, they're one of the best. So, if you don't make mistakes that cost you yardage, that cost you points, then you give your talent a chance to win out. And there were times last year against UCF in the second half, against Houston, really SMU, I don't put in this category because I felt like that they were just so, I mean, I hate to say it. If they cut out the turnovers, that's a much closer game, but they felt overmatched in that ball game. And you can cringe about that or say that shouldn't be the case. I agree with you. I'm just telling you what I observed. Right. But I mean, Baylor as well was a close ball game. Could have gone either way. And I know people get kind of caught up in like, well, if you're playing close games all the time, that means you're not a great team. And to a certain extent, the results in those games are sort of luck based. Do you get a break here? Does the ball bounce this way here? But I would contend that when TCU was winning so many games a couple of years ago, part of it was because they were a team that was making those plays. And if you expect to be in a lot of close games, you have to have a winning culture. I also just believe he was speaking to, which is always fun to start trying to interpret and talking about what somebody else, decipher what somebody else is saying. But that's sort of what I do here on the podcast. I think he was also highlighting that they have some real continuity with the coaching staff for the first time. Year 3 of the Kendall Briles era as offensive coordinator. Year 2 of Andy Avalos being your defensive coordinator. And so he compared it to year 1 under Kendall, where they were having all kinds of issues lining up and getting their formations right in the line of scrimmage. And now you look at it and they're able to do those things more quickly. And they've cut out some of the issues there. So could that make your team better? Yes. And if you're slightly better, do you win a few more games last year? I would say so. I think the schedule's tougher this year. But in the second half of the season, I feel like you did see a team. They weren't perfect. They weren't totally there. But you saw them make strides in this area. So I was encouraged that it carried over. And Vince also said Sonny is, I mean, he's just a good soundbite, which he is. I mean, he's a good soundbite. And I think he does use the media to his advantage sometimes. But I feel like so much of that is just dictated on whether you win or lose. Because there was a time last year where they were struggling that everybody was frustrated with him on Tuesdays at his weekly presser, getting on the mic and saying, well, we had a great Tuesday practice. Because people were like, well, if you're having all these great practices, why is it not translating to the field on Saturdays? It sounds very empty. So I think he's a good soundbite, but I think people will see through it if they lose. But we haven't played games yet, right? So we're in talking season. We're that time of the year where everybody's doing great. So I don't expect to hear a lot of negativity out of camp. That did catch my eye though, that they made progress in that way. Also, I mentioned this on Thursday or Friday. I guess it was Thursday when I talked about spring practice. Adam Schobel looks the part. Now, it doesn't always mean everything, but he's a big kid. And, I mean, Haas brought his own talents to the table. I don't expect Schobel to really get any run this year, but it's good to see that type of frame and athleticism from the dude who is going to be next in line to step up and be your starting quarterback. Hopefully, next year, but in the near future, that's going to be his job. When we come back, TCU basketball lands Brock Harding out of Iowa. Jamie Dixon starts his roster rebuild. That's coming up next year on Locked On Hornets.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
That's right. Check out the bracket breakdown here on Locked On Sports, Amazon Fire TV. It's been fun to watch those guys throughout the tournament. Final four coming up this weekend. TCU men's basketball will not be part of that, unfortunately. Hopefully the women will be, but TCU men starting their roster rebuild. Jamie Dixon and his crew, they decided not to play in the college basketball crown tournament. They forego any opportunity to play in the postseason, and reportedly that's because they want to focus on the transfer portal and get the right guys in here to do the work. So Brock Harding from Iowa is the first addition, and it should be worth noting Vashawn Allett, Frankie Collins, both in the portal. I was surprised to see Frankie Collins go. Brock Harding seems to be the replacement for Frankie Collins. A veteran point guard will be going into his junior season. Last year, 8 points a game, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 45% from the field. I think the most interesting or most exciting thing from his stat line to me, 37% from three. So somebody who can spread the floor a little bit. TCU desperately needs that. But Brock Harding is your old school point guard. I mean, he is a guy that is going to get you into your offensive sets, distribute the basketball to his teammates, set up shots, and then also he can get his own looks from time to time and can shoot, off the ball, get it, catch and shoot from beyond the arc, which would be a big plus. So he'll be leading the charge along with hopefully, Jace Posey, Micah Robinson, David Punch, Ernest Uday next year. They need another combo guard. They need somebody who can play the two. I'm not sure who that's going to be yet. Caden Edwards from Duncanville is also a name to know. And I would love to see him come in and make an immediate impact. He is one of the highest rated recruits in TCU basketball history. But typically Jamie doesn't give his freshman much run. Now, last year he did really out of necessity. And with Mike Miles, he did because he was ready to go. And you just hope that's the case with Edwards, that he can come in and play right away because they're going to need guys who can score. I don't know what the status of RJ Jones is. He's a K-State transfer that redshirted last year. Ashton Simmons is also a name to know, but Brock Harding, I don't think he's coming to campus. I mean, I assume they're going to have him compete for the job, but I don't believe he comes to campus unless he was made a pretty big assurance that you're going to be the guy running point and we want you setting up our offense, being the go-to player, at least in, getting those sets ready and getting the offense initiated on a night-to-night basis. And when he had to score at Iowa, he did it pretty well. Now, that was not a particularly good Iowa team last season, but they played in the Big Ten. So he's used to high-level hoops. I don't think – it's not like he's jumping up from Old Dominion or something like that. And hopefully he's a level-headed guy who can just do his job well and give this team some consistency. They need some consistency at the guard spot. They didn't really have a true point guard last year. That was a big part of the problem. Simmons redshirted. Collins got hurt. And then Allett and Reynolds did their best to step into that role, but neither of them, both of them are two guards. They're not really your prototypical point guard. And I believe the offense suffered because of that. So this is a helpful start. And I think this is a big year for Jamie. I feel like people are as disconnected from TCU basketball as they were. Not quite like the pre-Jamie days, like the Trent Johnson era, but it's pretty close. And it's not because they're just this desolate team. They do some nice things, but it felt like the ceiling's been hit. And then this past year was a rebuilding year. And honestly, from the jump, it was that. There was a nice win against Tech. They had a win against Xavier at home. Beat Baylor on the road. Those were your 3 big wins this season. But even that wasn't really enough to get people juiced up and looking towards the future. So hopefully this is the start of a new era of TCU hoops, and they get Brock Harding on board. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.